It's the police body cam video answering some of the mysteries surrounding the death of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife.
Gene Hackman took secrets to his grave that powerful people never wanted exposed, but an accidental discovery by an excavation crew has blown the lid off his Santa Fe fortress. Hidden behind a library wall, a stone staircase spirals down into a chamber filled with impossible artifacts and yellowed photographs of secret meetings.
Now with new details on the investigation to the death of actor Gene Hackman, including newly released video.
These items suggest that Hackman was part of a chain of guardians protecting knowledge that dates back 12,000 years. Everyone is obsessed with his acting career, but his real life was a high-stakes thriller involving a tunnel system that the government is now desperately trying to hide. Silent guardian of forgotten history. The official story says that Gene Hackman and his wife passed away quietly in their Santa Fe home on February 26, 2025.
A cloud of suspicion surrounds the deaths of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife, whose bodies were found in their Santa Fe home.
But when forensic specialists began a routine sweep of the mansion, they realized the scene did not match the narrative of a simple elderly passing. Furniture had been moved recently, leaving deep impressions in the carpets, and personal files in the study looked like they had been rifled through by someone in a hurry. Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, an expert with 22 years of experience in high-value scenes, felt something was off the moment she stepped inside the grand library. While checking for hidden compartments, she felt a mahogany panel vibrate in a way that suggested a hollow space behind the wood. When she applied pressure to a specific carving, the wall clicked open to reveal a narrow passage that smelled of damp earth and ancient stone. This was the start of a discovery that would lead investigators 312 feet straight down into the New Mexico soil. The staircase was carved from stone and worn smooth by decades of use, suggesting that someone had been traveling up and down this shaft for a very long time. But here is the catch. The estate itself was already built like a military installation before the tunnel was even found. The property sits on 23 acres of dense forest and is surrounded by stone walls that reach 12 feet high in some sections. Reinforced steel gates block every entrance, and thermal cameras track movement across the perimeter 24 hours a day. And neighbors like Maria Sandoval reported hearing muffled sounds of heavy machinery coming from underground as recently as 2017, but the reclusive nature of the couple kept anyone from asking questions. The staff on the property were all bound by ironclad non-disclosure agreements that prohibited them from even mentioning the basement layout. See, the security was not there to keep fans out, it was there to keep a secret in. As the team descended the stairs, they noticed fresh electrical conduits running along the ancient stone walls, proving that the passage had been modernized and maintained recently. The air grew colder with every step, and the tension among the agents was thick enough to feel. They were moving into a space that did not appear on any property survey or architectural blueprint in the state of New Mexico. What they found at the bottom was a chamber 40 feet wide and 60 feet long that researchers now call the vault. The architecture of the room is a strange mix of Spanish colonial style from the late 1800s and modern reinforced concrete that is 18 inches thick. This level of construction is usually reserved for government bunkers or blast-resistant facilities. Investigative sources suggest that this chamber has changed hands through 7 different shell companies since 1920, all designed to hide the true owner. The crazy part is that 3 different surveyors who tried to map this land between 1945 and 1950 all vanished or died shortly after starting their work. One surveyor left the state within months, while another was involved in a fatal car accident just 6 weeks after his final visit to the property. It is not that simple, though, because the chamber was not empty. It was filled with 47 wooden crates that were stacked against the walls, some of them crumbling into dust and spilling their contents onto the floor. Everything in that room pointed to a history that was never supposed to be recorded. Evidence from a shadow era. Inside those crates were artifacts that suggest a connection to a past that officially does not exist. The most disturbing find was a leather-bound ledger dated 1947, entirely handwritten in German. It contained hundreds of names, dates, and financial transactions that appear to link the property to a group of individuals who disappeared after the war. Alongside the ledger were 63 photographs that show men in military uniforms that do not match any known nation or branch of service. In many of these photos, the faces have been carefully cut out or scratched away, leaving only the silhouettes of the people involved. And get this. One of the images shows a group of men standing right at the entrance of the very tunnel the FBI just discovered. Based on the clothing and the quality of the paper, that photo was taken sometime in the late 1940s. It suggests that the mystery beneath the Hackman estate has been active for over 80 years. What most people do not realize is that Gene Hackman might have bought this house specifically for what was underneath it. Throughout his career, he played characters who uncovered deep conspiracies and paid a heavy price for knowing the truth.
He was an extraordinary actor. He was somebody who was good at drama, who was believable in action films, and he could also do comedy. He was really funny and Get Shorty.
From his role in The Conversation to Enemy of the State, he seemed drawn to stories about men who understood that information is the only real currency of power. Some researchers believe his retreat from Hollywood was not a retirement, but a transition into a role he had been preparing for his entire life. He became the guardian of a legacy that dates back to the mid-20th century. The crates also contain technical schematics and blueprints for machines that appear far too advanced for the era they were drawn in. These papers show mechanisms that look like a blend of industrial engineering and something far more experimental. But here is the deal. The artifacts were only the beginning of the confusion. Investigators found astronomical charts that were even more baffling than the German ledgers. These charts depict the positions of the stars with a level of mathematical precision that is impossible for the 1800s. When experts analyzed the data, they found that the star maps correspond to a time roughly 12,000 years in the past or 12,000 years in the future. The mathematical accuracy suggests that whoever created these documents understood orbital mechanics better than modern scientists of that era. And this is a key detail because it implies the tunnel was not just a storage unit, but a library of forbidden knowledge. The deeper the agents looked, the more they realized that the items in the vault were meant to be hidden for centuries. The symbols on the walls were about to tell a story that would stop the investigation in its tracks. Impossible markings behind iron doors. When Dr. Okonkwo turned her flashlight toward the far wall of the chamber, she found hundreds of carvings that do not match any known language on the planet. These symbols are so precise and intricate that looking at them for more than 30 seconds can cause a feeling of intense vertigo. Some of the markings resemble ancient alchemical signs, while others look like digital code or complex circuit boards. There is a strange intent behind the carvings that makes it feel like the wall is communicating a message to anyone who finds it. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a local historian, believes these markings are part of a coded system used by a secret group of protectors who have held the property for generations. The crazy part is that some of the symbols were carved recently, overlapping with markings that are over a century old. This proves that the work inside the tunnel has never truly stopped. It's not that simple though, because at the very end of the vault sits an iron door that is 8 feet tall and 4 inches thick. It has no handle and no visible hinges, only a massive corroded lock that looks like it was designed to stay shut forever. The surface is covered in layers of grime and rust, but thermal imaging has revealed something that keeps investigators awake at night. There is active airflow coming from the other side of that door. Whatever lies beyond that iron barrier is a space that continues even deeper into the New Mexico earth. Some believe it leads to a network of Cold War bunkers, while others suggest it connects to something much older and more dangerous. The FBI has refused to comment on the door and has not made any attempt to open it, leading to rumors of a massive cover-up. Basically, the property has now been placed under restricted access, and anyone who tries to get close is turned away by federal authorities. The official cause of death for the Hackmans remains cardiovascular disease, but the timing of their passing feels too convenient for many researchers. Our Betsy Arakawa passed away nearly 3 weeks before she was found, and Jean passed away sometime later, alone in a house that was built to be a fortress. Some theories suggest that they were silenced because they were planning to reveal the truth about what was in the vault. Others believe that the tunnel provided a way for someone to enter the mansion completely undetected, bypassing the millions of dollars in security, when the mysterious buyer waiting in the shadows is already moving to take control of the estate. Final guardian of the desert secrets. Just days after the investigation hit the headlines, paperwork was filed to transfer the property to an anonymous trust based in the Cayman Islands. This buyer is moving with incredible speed to secure the land before the public or independent researchers can get a closer look at the tunnel. This is a key detail because it suggests that the power behind the vault is still active and very wealthy. They aren't just buying a house, they are buying silence. When a billionaire trust from a tax haven jumps in this fast, it means there is something under that dirt that is worth more than the gold or the land itself. Gene Hackman lived his life with a level of paranoia that most people found eccentric, but the discovery of the tunnel proves that his fears were grounded in a very physical reality. He was not just a movie star hiding from the press, he was a man standing watch over a door that the world is not yet ready to open. We have to ask why a man with all that fame would choose to live like a sentry in the desert. Maybe his entire career was just a way to pay for the security of that hole in the ground. If you look at the layout of the property, the house isn't built for comfort. It is built to have a clear view of the entrance to that iron door. He wasn't living there. He was working there. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that the contents of those 47 crates have been moved to an undisclosed location. The German ledgers, the yellowed photos, and the impossible star maps are now in the hands of the same authorities who refuse to answer questions about the iron door. These star maps are the weirdest part of the whole story. Some people who saw them say the constellations don't match the sky we see today. One wild theory is that these maps show the stars as they looked 50,000 years ago, or maybe how they look from a completely different planet. If Hackman was holding on to maps of a different sky, we aren't just talking about history. We are talking about where we actually came from. We have to wonder if the secrets Gene Hackman was protecting died with him, or if they are just being handed off to a new set of guardians. The thing is, if this tunnel was maintained for 80 years, the work happening down there is far from over. A tunnel that stays clean and has fresh air flowing through it for decades doesn't just happen by accident. Someone was down there. Someone was sweeping the floors and checking the bolts on that door while the rest of us were watching Hackman on the big screen. It makes you think about what other celebrity estates might be sitting on top of history that has been erased from the books. We see these huge mansions in the hills and think they are just for parties, but they might be the lids on top of a giant underground grid. Does the government have the right to hide history found on private land? What do you think is behind that iron door? Like and subscribe for more mysteries.